As the U.S. led the world in illness and death, the White House moved the focus to the Chinese government.
That's where this began.
Last Sunday, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo attempted to resurrect a debunked theory that the virus was man-made in China.
Welcome back, America. That was Scott Pelley last night on 60 Minutes. I am joined now by Representative Liz Cheney. She is chairman of the House Republican Conference, the third-ranking Republican in the House of Representatives. Good morning, Representative Cheney. Everybody well and doing good in the Cheney team?
Good morning, Hugh. So far, thank goodness everyone is, just very tough times for folks around the country. But thank you for everything you're doing.
Well, I want to begin with that.
There.
I want to that clip by Scott Pelley last night has three distortions, if not outright lies in it. First of all, we don't know that America leads the world in death because the Chinese communists lie to us. Number two, the Secretary of State did not resurrect a debunked theory. He misspoke and they clipped it, not using his entire point. And third, we don't actually know anything about this virus because the Chinese won't let us into the lab. Why in the world is American media taken the side of the CCP in this?
You know, it is a really troubling question and a really good point, Hugh. And I think there are several reasons for it. I think, first of all, they're clearly liberal. I think they clearly do not want to see the administration succeed. As we saw during impeachment, they hate President Trump more than they're willing to come together and work together to defeat this virus. And so I also think that we do have to question the extent to which the Chinese Communist Party and the Chinese government have been very successful, very effective at providing funding, resources, infiltrating Hollywood, infiltrating media, infiltrating our entertainment companies. And I think that people have always got to question the extent to which there's influence coming from the Chinese Communist Party in this regard. But you summed it up exactly right in terms of just a complete untruth that you heard there from Scott Pelley and CBS.
No, I don't believe we have an Alger Hiss running around, but I do believe we've got an awful lot of American interests tied up with the economy of the PRC, and therefore deeply worried about offending the CCP. I mean, LeBron James is the biggest example of that, right? He knows his personal wealth depends upon the CCP not banning LeBron as a trademark in China. How do we go about untangling this, disengaging from this?
Well, I think that what we've seen with the devastation caused by COVID, this pandemic, which they caused to be spread around the world by lying about it and failing to alert the world. What we've seen is people now have to face the real consequences, the real cost of those relationships with China. And so whereas the, sort of economic pain that people would mention and be concerned about previously when these discussions about separating supply chains, moving supply chains, decreasing our dependence. Whenever those discussions came up in the past, you would see a real focus on the importance of the Chinese markets and the importance of being able to, have supply chains that originated there in many cases. I think now, because people see the death and destruction of this pandemic and of, what's been unleashed because of the totalitarian regime in China, that whole cost calculation changes. And I think people will have to face reality here, which is that the world has got to come together. We're already beginning to see it in terms of some of our allies beginning to incentivize their companies to move their supply chains. But we've got to understand fundamentally going forward here, China's role in the world is going to have to completely change, because you cannot be part of the civilized community of nations if you behave in the way that the Chinese Communist Party has, and you cause the deaths of so many people around the world. And now we're seeing that 80,000 Americans to date.
Liz Cheney, do we need people like Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner, his players? Do we need Disney with Shanghai Disney? Do we need them to step up and step out and say, this far and no farther, we are not going to be captive to the Chinese market?
I think we do, and I think we do for a couple of reasons, Hugh. One is we need to think about, what does the Chinese Communist Party need? What they need is, rapid economic growth. They need the people in China to believe that their military is unsurpassed, is, beginning to overtake America's military. They need their people to believe that they're respected in international organizations. And so we need to be able to work with our allies, work with our industry, obviously make sure that we're maintaining the kind of defense posture that we need to demonstrate to the world and to the people of China that that's not the case. You are not a respected member of the community of nations. You're not respected on the world stage. We understand the role you're playing in international organizations. That those kinds of activities and behavior are not ones that the world together is going to allow.
Now, Representative Cheney, I want to switch to the Michael Flynn story. And I preface this by saying you've been around transitions. You were there when Bush Cheney took over from Clinton Gore, and you were there when Bush Cheney handed the reins of power over to Obama Biden. And the goal of every transition is that it be peaceful, seamless, and cooperative. It's the glory of America, actually. This transition appears to have been different, the most recent one. It appears as though rogue elements in the FBI, along with senior aides to President Obama, did everything they could to destroy Michael Flynn, who did some bad things, I think. I'm not sure. I have to ask the vice president if he still feels the same way, if he still feels that General Flynn misled him. But the more I read about this, the more it looks like a setup and a mug's game, and that Mr. Comey, Mr. McCabe, and unnamed Obama aides, and maybe President Obama himself were deeply involved in a very unsettling, first of its kind attempt to sabotage a transition. What is your assessment?
Yeah, I think you're right, Hugh. I think it is deeply, deeply troubling. First of all, let me just say, Jim Comey is one of the single worst actors in American politics and government in decades. The extent to which he absolutely showed no respect for, in many cases, the rule of law, the Constitution, bragged about it publicly. He was a bad actor during the Bush administration. He's been a bad actor now, and he's somebody that clearly, Office of Professional Responsibility at the Department of Justice had better be very actively investigating the role that he's played. I think that what we saw, it seems, was a situation in which there was a vendetta against General Flynn. We know that the Obama administration removed him, and that they seem to have gone after him, trying to criminalize the actions that he was taking during the transition. The fact that the case has now been dropped shows real vindication. But I think that it's really important for the American people to have confidence and faith in the Department of Justice, in the FBI, in the law enforcement entities in our government. And what we know now is under President Obama, Attorney General Holder, certainly Jim Comey, that they were operating in a way that seems to have been outside the bounds of the rule of law. And I think that's really grave and serious, and there ought to be pretty significant consequences for that.
I would ask anyone in the audience who thinks highly of any of the people we've just named to go read Sally Yates's interview with the Office of Special Counsel, attached as Exhibit 4 to the motion dismissed filed by the Department of Justice last week. The acting attorney general is flabbergasted by what Jim Comey did. I don't know if you've yet read that, Liz Cheney. She's absolutely dumbfounded by what he did.
Yeah.
And he's just a rogue actor, as was McCabe, and apparently Obama aides, unnamed Obama aides.
Yeah, well, what we saw with their demand for unmasking for political purposes, what we saw with the extent to which she appears to have found out about what was going on from President Obama in the Oval Office.
Yes,
I mean, it is and then the footage of Comey admitting, on video that he completely flouted all of the norms of what you would do if you actually needed to go interview somebody in the administration. He just took advantage of a situation to go and trap General Flynn. He's admitting it. So it's really, a sad day well, it's a great day that General Flynn has been vindicated, and hopefully the charges will be dropped here formally. But I think that it is a very sad day, and was a sad number of years that they were able to operate the way they did.
Now, Liz Cheney, I've said for a long time that the election in November is going to come down to 4. Now I've changed it to 5 issues. China, because I think the Democrats are appeasers. Defense, because I don't think the Democrats believe in funding it. Judges, because they believe in whack jobs instead of originalists. The key to rebounding the economy is deregulation. They don't believe that. Those are the 4 bigs. But I'm going to add, I think the American people are going to want a thorough prosecution of everyone involved in this scandal because it protects the essence of democracy. What do you make of my 5 issues?
Yeah, no, I think those are the right ones, Hugh. I think because of the pandemic, I think that the role of China is clearly going to play. I think it's going to play a bigger role in the election. People will, I think, look really negatively at Vice President Biden and at the Democrats, the extent to which they'd rather, frankly, blame President Trump, blame the administration, than look at what really happened here. You know, the people to blame for what we're all living through and this devastation is the Chinese Communist Party, and I think they will need to be held accountable.
Is the word appeasers too strong?
No, I don't think so. I think that, just look at what's happened in Congress. We've tried for months to get the Democrats to agree to a bipartisan task force focused on the whole array of steps we need to take with respect to China. They agreed, and then, sort of moments before the announcement last February, they backed off. Now, Leader McCarthy has named a number of us to this task force, and we welcome the Democrats to join us. We hope and we wish they would. It'd be much better for the country to have a bipartisan focus and effort on this, but we're going to go ahead and make sure that we've laid out what needs to be done with respect to China. And frankly, it's pretty hard to understand why the Democrats won't participate in that.
Well, I think it's tied in with their Iranian policy, Representative Cheney. Everywhere I look, they are just repeating the Stanley Baldwin, Neville Chamberlain policies of the 30 vis-a-vis Iran and China. They don't want to confront problems.
Yeah, and they just haven't learned the lessons of history, which is that you're never going to be able to defend yourself or to convince your adversaries that they ought to behave appropriately if you make yourself weaker. And I think that we'll see what happens. I'm concerned, as I know you are, Hugh, about the defense budget, the downward pressure on the defense budget. We've had to spend a significant amount of money to provide relief from the economic impact of the virus, which is the right thing to do. I don't agree with all of it. I think the Democrats have put wasteful spending in there. But I think it's really important that we not, take that money out of the Defense Department or somehow lessen our commitment to making sure that we're maintaining a military that is second to none so we can deter any adversary around the world that would wish us harm.
Absolutely. If there's a phase 4, I hope a lot of it goes to the Department of Defense to forward fund the appropriations necessary to rebuild the triad and get our fleet up to speed. Representative Liz Cheney, always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you for being with us. I'll be right back, America. I did not